morning, everyone. I just wanted to talk a little bit about why manners minor is important in foundation training. Early on, my system is a food system, so I'm training primarily with food. They work for every piece of kibble. When you're talking about indirect rewards, there's no better way to give an indirect reward with food than a machine such as the manners minder. It's important to teach indirect rewards. It's important for the dog to understand that the reward doesn't always come from the handler. And the reason behind that is that when down the road, when you're getting into your advanced obedience, you need to proof your behaviors. In order to proof a behavior, you need to teach the dog that your reward item isn't something to be fixated on like in the early stages of training. Early on, we want them to be fixated on the reward. That's how we create those behaviors. So when we're using the manners minder, we're teaching the dog that you do something, you don't necessarily see the reward, or even if you see the manners minder, focus still needs to be on the handler. Boom, here comes the reward somewhere else. So it's important for the dog to understand that. So I'm going to show with the ball down the road in advanced obedience how that's going to look and how that behavior translates into proving your advanced behaviors. Okay. Out. Flex. Flex. So what I'm going to do is use his reward, which now the reward for Loki is a ball. And the reason why I use a ball down the road is it creates speed and dynamics and power into their obedience. Obviously, early on, the ball was a point to be fixated on to give attention. Now he has to understand attention is given because that's what's expected. The reward may come from me or it may come from somewhere else. So I'll show you first from me and then second from somewhere else. Yeah. Good. Very good. Very good. Very good. Good. Out. Flex. Slide. Push. Good. Good. Very good. So that's an example of using your reward in later training to prove a behavior. Obviously, further proving that behavior would be lots of distractions. Reward could come from me. It could come from an indirect spot that has been placed. It's super duper important that the dog never knows where that reward's coming from down the road. They need to understand that I'm offering this behavior with the chance that my reward is going to pop up from anywhere at any time. So obviously now we're using food, early stages foundation, why the manners minder is important. And it doesn't matter if it's slowing things down slightly because you want to do it correct in foundation training. So same behavior. You teach the dog to come into heel position, attention's up on the handler, food. Attention's up on the handler, food. The dog originally is fixated on the food in your hand. That's how you're creating that heads up position. Once he understands that position, now we're going to proof it. Food on the side of the head. Attention up at the handler. Reward. Attention up at the handler. Food in the hand on the side of the head. Reward. To further proof that, we've already introduced the manners minder in foundation training. Attention up at the handler. No food. The dog doesn't smell it on the handler. Boop. Go get your reward. It's important the dog understands that, or they're never truly going to understand what you're teaching them and what's expected of them. Come here, bub. Good. Out. Fine. Yeah. That's why it's important, super important, to take your time during foundation training. Make the dog truly understand that everything you're teaching has a purpose. Everything you're teaching is fun. Make them want to work for you, make them look good doing it, and let them never understand where that reward is coming from. It's going to help you tremendously down the road when you're in your off-leash stages, especially if you're looking to compete in higher level obedience. Basic pet obedience, not so important to proof of behavior to that extent, but if you're not proving a behavior to that extent in advanced obedience, you're never going to make it anywhere. I hope this video helps, so enjoy.